this video brought to you by Brilliant. Learn something new every day with 20% off with the link below.
Sautez nuit de la sacrée pointe! Oh non!
2022's Prey is a brand new take on the Predator franchise, where instead of buff dudes in tactical gear, the story falls on the shoulders of a young Native American woman called Naru. Despite being armed with nothing but weapons of the 1700s, she'll have to channel her inner Arnold and take on the greatest predator in the galaxy, the Predator. And overall, this movie is a prime example of what event streaming movies should be. Instead of taking your biggest 200 million IP and putting it on streaming, make smaller movies with that IP that you wouldn't usually make for theaters and put that on streaming. Don't put live-action Batman on HBO Max. Make a low-scale action thriller about a bank robber having to survive a nightly getaway while being hunted by a Batman hero and villains and put that on HBO Max. Don't put live-action Dragon Ball Z on Netflix. Make an intimate survival horror movie about a few civilians having to survive the massacre facing their city by the alien cell and put that on Netflix. So in that sense, Prey is a fantastic change of pace worthy of applause, and there's really no reason not to watch it. But all that said, as you may have guessed from the title, there is also a negative side to Prey worthy of exploring. The fact that it's quite simple. And I don't mean simple as in there's a native fighting with sticks and stones in the woods. I mean that in quite a few areas, this movie is the most basic and predictable version of what it's doing.
I see you.
You know, you don't have to see the movie to already know the main strokes of how it's gonna go. What's gonna happen and where, who's gonna end up how. I mean, you can already see the full thematic message here before it's even halfway done. And to be clear, I'm not making this video to somehow take this movie down or because I just hate movies. No, I promise you, that's not it. I like the movie, I like the director. I really wish we had gotten him for Uncharted because no doubt it would have been much better.
Oh my god! Oh my god!
I just want to highlight a couple key negative things about simplicity and predictability to learn from. That's what this series is about. Doesn't mean you can't dislike me for doing it, but if you're willing to take this leap of faith with me, you may very well come out stronger on the other side. So here's how a movie can end up being too simple. One simplicity issue here is that some scenes exist for no other reason than to set up value for later on. A great example of this happens toward the beginning, where Naru has found weird tracks left by some terrible beasts and she's trying to warn other villagers only for nobody to believe her.
There's something else out there.
You are fake news.
And so she takes her axe and dog and heads off to uncover this terrible beast herself, which after quite a bit of walking in the woods leads to this particular section of the woods where she gets swallowed by the earth. Which then creates the scene of her needing to get free, which she then quite quickly does because it's just random marsh that comes out of nowhere, and then we're moving on. And regardless of whether you think this scene is good or not, what you can notice is that it exists for just one real meaningful reason: to set up the dangerous marsh as a weapon against the predator for the finale. Other than that, the scene has no purpose of existence. You could take it out of the movie and nothing would change. Things would still function exactly the same, except that now the ending location wouldn't have been introduced. And the reason a purely set-up scene like this is not a good thing is twofold. Firstly, it becomes much easier for the audience to see exactly what you're setting up. Oh, I bet this random marsh is where she defeats the predator at the end. And secondly, there's no real large value in the scene itself outside of what it's setting up for later. Again, it's just random marsh that shows up out of nowhere for a matter of seconds, and that's it.
That was easy.
And for context, look at the biggest setup scene in the movie that does more setups and payoffs than any other: Back to the Future. Basically, Marty McFly is at the town square with his girlfriend when the movie jumps in to talk about the clock tower.
Sponsoring an initiative to replace that clock. 30 years ago, lightning struck that clock tower and the clock hasn't run since. We at the Hill Valley Preservation Society think it should be preserved.
Which is necessary to introduce the way Marty ultimately gets back to the future at the end. But what you can notice here is that the scene has value of its own right then and there. Most of all, it's about exploring Marty's relationship with his girlfriend and how the fear of rejection is holding back his life.
What if I send in the tape and they don't like it? I mean, what if they say I'm no good?
Whereas the clock tower setup is just an additional element on the backside of that, literally. And in this manner, you want to find that value for the scene itself that you then attach the setup onto. If the marsh scene was somehow connected to the bear attack, we wouldn't really notice the marsh setup because we'd be fully invested in Naru trying to survive the bear she's been tracking. Or if the scene was about exploring Naru's relationship with her brother, about them arguing until one of them falls in and them then working together to show how much they deep down really care about each other, same thing. We wouldn't pay attention to the setup because the setup isn't why the scene exists. To be clear, setups and payoffs are some of the most powerful tools in your writing arsenal. It's very cool when this movie introduces a blood-cooling flower that Naru can use later on to appear invisible for the predator.
What was that noise?
But what's not cool is that in this scene she has the flower for no real reason other than because the movie had told her to get it.
Go get us some orange tutsia.
Okay.
What's not cool is that in the scene we're using the flower to save some random villager we've never seen before and will never see again.
Who the f is that guy?
What's not cool is that this is what the moment is most of all, that the scene is primarily set up and I can see right through it.
Okay, the cold is good. The medicine slows his blood. If he gets warm, he'll bleed out.
I bet $10 that the body cooling flower will be used against the Predator's heat vision at the end.
Baby, that's what I've been waiting for. That's what it's all about.
And so the point is that your scene shouldn't exist to serve the future, but the moment itself. Naru realizing how the Predator's targeting system works for later on is not a scene. What is a scene is her realizing it in the midst of her brother giving his life for her. A 100-minute movie should be 100 minutes of value, not 80 minutes of value and 20 minutes of setting it up. Unless, of course, you're asking the audience for just 80% of the ticket price. Another simplicity issue here is that the journeys that the characters go on are so obvious that the audience is just waiting for them to unfold on screen. Take for example Naru's big brother, who essentially is a talented hunter warrior she's always dreamed of being. He can easily make the shot she won't even try. He protects and saves her from dangers that she can't handle.
Your brother carried you home. You went after it.
He is on her side like a big brother should be, but he just doesn't think she can or should even try to fill the slot that he already inhabits.
I had to carry you back.
I can hunt.
You tried it. You couldn't bring it home.
And when you have a character who protects the hero from danger and inhabits the slot the hero aspires to fill, what do you think is gonna happen to him? Like really, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Well, I guess that he gets disposed of so the hero can then rise up alone without protection to fill that slot that's no longer inhabited. And wow, look at that, that's exactly what happens.
This is as far as I go. Bring it home.
It is understandable that it happens because it fits the story very well, but at the same time, it is the most obvious route to take with this character. As another example to add on to this, look at the group of French hunters that end up catching Naru before the Predator can. All in all, there's no character development. The French are just evil invaders here to loot the land, and they never do anything that isn't an immediate benefit to themselves.
You have medicine?
And since this is a Predator movie with very few characters in it, I wonder what's gonna happen to the French. Well, not really. The movie's just gonna use them as cannon fodder against the Predator in a cool action sequence. Oh, and would you look at that? Again, it is understandable that this happens because it is a Predator movie and you do want to up that kill counter. But at the same time, the audience will already be steps ahead. They'll just be waiting for the sequence where the Predator kills all the French that they already know is coming. Like, oh, we have a bunch of superior-minded villagers who demean the hero for not being a warrior and refuse to believe her warnings about a terrible danger.
Saw a monster from a children's story?
I wonder if they're gonna... Yep, there it is. There's the thing I knew to expect in this scenario because I've seen movies before. To be clear, this is ultimately a personal experience. If you comment that you had no idea what would happen to these characters, I can't really refute that, that's your experience. But if you've seen movies like this before and you're still commenting that, I don't know, at that point there is a chance you're just feeling a need to justify your own enjoyment of it. Again, I like all this, I think the sequences are awesome, but I'm not gonna pretend that I didn't see them coming miles away, that I wasn't just waiting for them to unfold. And so the point is that when you're planning your character journeys, maybe first identify the most obvious versions of them and then consider if it's worth doing something else. I know this mentality was kinda ruined for the general public, but filmmaking isn't binary. It's not like you either do the Snoke twist or just give the audiences what they know to expect. You know, I could very comfortably bet money on the fact that none of these characters get talked about ever again. They're just construct of the story to service the way stories like this most often go, so what is there to talk about? Whereas the characters that go down paths that we're not used to seeing, they're the ones that stay with us. The third simplicity issue here is that the main thematic character arc that the hero goes through is lacking organic necessity. Like I mentioned, the thematic message here is about female independence. Naru is a woman who's expected to abide by gender roles that Native Americans impose on their women, which still resonates today.
It's fun to lose and to pretend.
She's meant to wake up early and harvest while carrying her baby. She's meant to take care of the home and greet the men as they return from hunting. She isn't meant to be this thing she wants to be just because she's a woman.
Who invited you? We won't be gone long enough to need a cook.
Overall, nobody can see her as a hunter-warrior. Not her brother, not her mother, not even the predator.
Run, Naru. It thinks I'm the threat.
Are you kidding me?
So Naru's thematic arc then is about making people see her the way she wants to be seen. Yes, she is a woman, but that doesn't mean she has to abide by the norms set by history. No, she might not look like a hunter on the outside, but that doesn't mean she's prey. And all that's totally fine. I know Hollywood has recently been quite obsessive about the same thing, but there are still tons of young girls out there to whom movies like this and the first Wonder Woman are important, just like Black Panther was important for another group of people. But that said, for some reason this specific arc still felt a bit artificial, as if the movie was waving it in your face saying this is the theme we're doing, rather than just doing it as an organic narrative. And as I was trying to think of why it felt that way, it reminded me of It Follows, the first half of which is some of the strongest tension building you can find.
Hello?
The thematic arc in It Follows is about running from your past. The hero is followed by this creature that nobody else can see or help her with, until she finally chooses to trust her friends and take on the creature as well as the past she's running from together. Not because she's a badass movie hero or anything, but because her choice is necessitated. This thing is gonna keep coming forever, and it's gonna keep going forever. And it's that necessity that Prey is lacking, that external force pressuring the thematic arc into existence. See, again, the movie makes it very clear that the predator isn't a danger to you unless you're worth its time by being a danger to it.
It doesn't want bait, it doesn't hunt that way. It came right up to me and then left. It didn't think I was a threat.
So, externally speaking, Naru could just go home and that would be that. It's not like the predator's gonna follow her there and start killing everybody because of her, because that's not what's been established.
This creature is a hunter, looking for the strongest beast.
Mission accomplished. Good work.
What is very strong here though is the internal force. When Naru's brother sacrifices himself for her, he conveys that he trusts her to be ready to finish the job, which gives the finale that effective, intimate motivator. But when you look at this thematic arc on the external side as a whole, there's really not much there. Naru isn't driven by a false need to prove herself to earn her family's affection or something. No, she's already valued the way she is. She's not trying to earn freedom for herself and others like her. No, she's able to go off to do her own thing pretty freely already and without repercussions. There is no major external problem here in need of solving. No, mostly the thematic arc is about a woman proving herself as a hunter because that's what she chooses to do.
Why do you want to hunt?
Because you all think that I can't.
And to be clear, choice is important because it makes characters active instead of a passive shell pushed by the plot. But when your movie's thematic message is more about the message itself rather than the narrative it's in, that's when the audiences start to see through it. That's when you run the risk of being seen as a message more than a movie. I'm not saying this is the case with Prey, but I am saying that you do want to try to find an external force. That Naru needs to prove herself to be allowed to practice what she's passionate about. That the stakes and danger created by the predator aren't so predictably manageable as initially thought. There's really no reason not to have an external side. We'll always care more about people who do something under pressure than those who do it just because. Overall, just be careful with this, because there is such a thing as being too simple. Or I guess not always, some things should be simple. I hope this video is simple. Stuff like math, science, computer science, you bet that should be as simple as doing interactive hands-on lessons on your device. Learning overall, yes, that shouldn't be a complicated chore like going to school to stare at formulas, but as simple as picking from thousands of lessons online, from algebra to neural networks to writing code, and completing them in a visually stimulating way at home. And it shouldn't take hours in a day and years in an institute, but just 30 minutes per day to make good progress in the area you're interested in. So yeah, the simplicity you do want is brilliant. This interactive platform that teaches you STEM subjects from the basics to a deeper level.
Oh, please.
No, don't be like that. If you want to gain intelligence in these areas for work or personal growth, this is the simplest and most efficient way to do it. It doesn't just teach, but actually helps you understand. This is how I got the big brain that I have. So if yes, check out Brilliant with 20% off for the first 200 people with the link below.